It is time to breathe again on the latest breath of fresh air, Shorty. I am your host for today, Charles, and I am here to talk about, list. Just bunches and bunches of lists. So, you know, when you look into the sports landscape or anywhere, entertainment, business, whatever, politics, whatever the music list, wherever you turn, whatever subject there is out there, it is all about the list of something, whether it's the top this, the worst this, the bottom this, the best this, whatever it is we're talking about. And of course, that's no different in sports. So, the list I kind of want to talk about, and this will kind of feed into my overreaching point for the whole shorty, is the NBA list they put out over the past few days with their top 75 players in the history of the league. Now, this is the 75th anniversary of the NBA being in existence. So frankly, so they'll have. I mean, of course, to go with the 75th anniversary, they have the 75th five greatest players. Now, weird caveat to this is they didn't want to touch the top 50. Of course, when it was the 50th anniversary of the NBA, they went with the top 50 players. And basically, what they did was just add 25 other players to who was already on the top 50 going back to, I guess that would be 1996, when the 50th anniversary is now, or was back then. So, look, people, personally, I don't like lists. I just don't. I get it's good for debate. I get it's good to get people talking and to give their own versions of your top 75 list. Or really, what it boils down to is, I guess, who you put in your top 10, because that's always been a debate. Who's the greatest of all time? Who's this? Who's that? And with this list, of course, just like with any other list, there are people who have disagreements with who's on the list. I heard Steve Kerr, who's the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, say Klay Thompson and Draymond Green should be on this list. Look, I think if we're going to break down those two players, I could make an argument for Klay Thompson because of the way he shoots, and he is probably, I think he's definitely in your top four greatest shooters in the league, if not top three. Of course, he's got a splash brother in Steph Curry, who's probably the greatest one, but Klay Thompson is not far behind. And he's an underrated player anyway. I think he's an excellent defender. Hopefully, he can come back soon from the torn ACL and the Achilles injuries he had, and he can get back to what he was, or at least close to it. Draymond Green, I mean, he's a good defender, and I mean, he puts up numbers in terms of getting you rebounding and assists. He's a Swiss Army knife player, but let's be honest with ourselves. Is anybody really looking at Draymond Green as a top 75 player in the league? I can pretty I can say with a good amount of confidence that the majority of the people are not looking at Draymond Green as a top 75 player. But Steve Curry's going to fight for his guys. So I've been good on him for fighting it, but let's at least be realistic about it. Anyway, these lists that come out, it's weird and it's definitely subjective because depending on who is on the committee who lists these people, all that can vary, and it just varies from person to person. And some people have their personal biases against said player. Some people have great relationships with said player, so they may inch them up higher than they may be, or they may inch them to the bottom, depending on how they feel about that person. It's just not really one of those things that is objective. Yeah, there might be some set criteria in there. I mean, so people want to look at championships. People want to look at all NBA, all NBA nominations or Defensive Player of the Years, MVPs, whatever it may be. But it is just not. It's not one of my favorite things. Is the list, and I think when it comes to lists, and I mean, look, yes, I have my opinions on who I think is the best 75 players, who I think might be the best player, who's the greatest player I've ever seen. But if we're going to make these lists, everything has to be considered. It can't be just heavily just put over to championships because that was another thing Steve Kerr said. Well, when it comes to winning, I mean, who's been a better winner than them over the past few seasons? Yes, I get it. Golden State has won 3 championships and made 5 straight NBA Finals runs, but just because the team is winning, that doesn't make that said player great. And so that's my thing about Draymond Green. Yeah, they won titles, but are we putting him in as one of the best 75 players? I don't think so. I mean, shoot, Andre Iguodala was on those teams. Are you looking at him as a best 75 player? Then you got guys who are on that list as well, like Charles Barkley, Karl Malone. They didn't win a title at all, but anybody who watched those guys would be hard pressed to find people who were better than them in their positions. So if they're on that list, there's probably not a lot of argument there. So that's why I think there's got to be some sort of criteria. If you're going to make these lists, there has to be some sort of criteria to put these guys in there. And it's got to be a combination of it. It cannot be skewed heavily toward championships because, I mean, Robert Ory has 7 rings. Well, I mean, he won 3. Yeah, he won 3 with the Lakers, 2 with the Rockets, and he won 2 with the Spurs. Yeah, he won 2 with the Spurs. And I don't see anybody putting him up there as one of the top 75 players. So let's just be realistic about it. And we need to take all the personal bias out of it. That is hard to do, of course, because people are always going to think on the emotions of how they feel. And a lot of it might not even have anything to do with what they did on the court. Could be stuff off the court. Could be a situation that came up as they were asking questions. And this is going toward media members. So if that is what we're basing it on, then you probably shouldn't be voting. Point blank and simple. You should not be voting. It should be based on what they did on the court. Yes, I get it is hard to take that out. Like if they committed crimes and stuff, I mean I can understand where a list could exempt somebody for committing crimes, but you're nominating the person or you're choosing the person to be there based off of what they did on the court or the field. So I think that should probably be the criteria that is there because I mean you have people who are in the Hall of Fame who did crimes. So I mean really it should be based on what they did on the court, what they did on the field of play, and take all the personal biases out of it. If that can happen, then maybe we can get something pretty accurate, I guess. But like I said, either way, me personally, I just don't like lists. How do y'all feel about lists? Y'all let me know, and y'all can even put who y'all think is the best ever player and who's in your top 75 list, or who you wouldn't have in the list. Just let me know in the comments. Good, bad, or indifferent, you know we will respond to them. Well, that concludes this Breath of Fresh Air Shorty. Y'all make sure y'all visit the Breath of Fresh Air YouTube channel, smash that subscribe button, and keep the likes coming on the Breath of Fresh Air Facebook page. Until next week, y'all take care and enjoy all the games that are coming up this weekend.